You're here because you want to know how to maintain work-life balance for busy entrepreneurs. So the coaches will tell you there's no such thing as balance, but coaches talk a lot of so what do I think about that? Let's find out. I'm Amy Walker, small business strategist, and this one is nuanced. Like there's parts of it that are true, and then there's a whole lot of it that creates this toxic culture around hustle and around sacrificing now for the things that you ultimately want, and creating honestly a really bad context that you can't maintain over the long haul. So in today's video, here's what we're going to cover. I'm going to tell you the worst business advice I have ever gotten. We're going to talk about hustle culture and why it is not a sustainable business model for like 95% of the population. And I'm going to walk you through a process that I take my clients through in order to help them build a sustainable schedule that honors their values and priorities and also helps them get a ton of stuff done. So stick with me until the end, and I'll also show you how I manage my personal schedule so that I can have the life balance that I'm looking for with my family. The worst business advice that I ever got was when I was a brand new entrepreneur, and my mentor would always tell me, short-term sacrifice, long-term gain, short-term sacrifice, long-term gain. And what that meant was be willing to live your life out of balance, be willing to sacrifice your priorities, because at some point in time, you're gonna get the things that you want. The problem was I literally worked with this person for like 4 or 5 years, and I never got to the long-term gain place. Where is it? It was constant short-term sacrifice, and the long-term gain just wasn't there. Why? Because this was not a sustainable way for me to build this business. It was burning me out, and I would go through these periods of like hustle, 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 work really hard, and then I felt like I would crash and everything would fall apart, and then I had to pick up all the pieces and put them back together. I have found that you can create much better results by just picking a pace that you can go out for the long haul. Here's my mantra that I tell myself all the time. I am in business for the marathon, not the sprint. Businesses are not made or broken in a day, a week, a month, or even a year. I am doing the best that I can, and my best is enough. So I am looking for a way that I can create sustainable growth. Now let's talk about the hustle culture. Hustle culture is very much a masculine energy, and men and women are really wired differently. We have a different flow. I feel like we are most successful in business as men or women when we balance our masculine and feminine energies, but there are a lot of women who are very out of balance, and we've been working in a masculine construct for a long time, and it's wearing us out. Why? Because the business constructs were built by men for men. They weren't built for us. And then when we came into entrepreneurship and business and the labor force, we fit into the man's flow, which is their hormones reset every 24 hours. They work really well with consistency. They work really well with discipline, and they kind of do the same thing every day. And then they unplug and they're kind of done with that thing. And as long as they pick the right amount of work within that 24 hours, they're going to thrive and do really well. When they work beyond that, so men, if you're like, pushing 20% harder than you should be, that's where you're going to experience burnout. But women are really different. Women need to work in flow, where there's times where we're more slow and we're more introspective, and then there's times where we are moving faster, and it's not a 24-hour cycle, it's like a several days cycle that we go through. And we might have seasonal cycles that we go through.
Sorry. Hormonal.
So when we are forcing ourselves to work in a hustle culture where we're working beyond what is good for us, it is actually going to cause us to burn out, and we'll be creating systems that are not sustainable. And every time you stop, you lose momentum and you lose a lot of what you just worked hard to build. It's just not the best way to build your business. So here's the part that I agree with when we talk about there's no such thing as balance. Balance makes you think of a scale, and it makes you think that you need to be spending equal amounts of time in all points of your life in order for everything to be balanced, and that is simply not the way that work-life balance works. So if we can let go of the idea of the scale and we can focus instead on honoring our values and our priorities, we're going to be able to create a workflow that is really giving us the harmony and the balance that we want. So So let's talk about how you get clarity on what this should look like for you. And then at the end, I'll give you some examples on how we work this in our family. When you feel out of balance, it's not because you have disproportionate hours going into different places. That can happen and you can feel completely imbalanced. What's really happening is that in your core, you have a set of values and priorities that are not being honored. And that's why you feel out of alignment. That's why you feel overwhelmed. That's why you feel stressed.
This is too much.
So how do you find what your priorities are? The first thing that I recommend doing is looking at your end of life goals. So actually go into that space and visualize when you are in your last moments of life and you are talking with the people that matter to you. What are the things that you're going to want to be able to say, yeah, I did a good job? So mine are faith, family, adventure, and accomplishment. I know that when I am an little old Amy lady, I'm going to be looking back on my life and I'm going to be thinking, did I honor my faith and my beliefs? Did I have great relationships with my family? Am I surrounded by family because we just love each other so much? Did I have a lot of fun? Did I go on adventures and live life to the fullest? And did I accomplish the things that I set out and wanted to accomplish? And if I can check all those boxes, I'm going to feel like I had a really, really good life.
It was a good life.
Now, once you have your top 3 or 4, I want you to actually look at how you're living your life right now. Are they showing up? Because if they're not showing up in your day-to-day, you are going to feel out of balance. I had this realization because I have been feeling a little bit out of balance for the last few months. Part of it was like getting through the holidays and then my whole family got COVID and blah, big projects. But I have been feeling a little bit out of balance. And as I went through this and I looked at my priorities, I was like, you know what? When was the last time I had fun and had an adventure? It's been a while. I need that in order to feel in balance. And also, I had put off some of my routines that help me feel spiritually connected and spiritually grounded. I hadn't really been doing those things in the process of getting sick and being out of my normal routine. So when I put those things back into play, I immediately feel a stronger sense of harmony and a stronger sense of balance. The next thing that I want you to do is I want you to define what success looks like in each of these areas. I want to take the impossible job of parenting as an example here. So family, one of my top values. And so being a good mom, really important to me. However, what does that actually mean? Does that mean that I am the parent who attends every single event for every single one of my 5 children? Does that mean that I'm the parent who makes gourmet bento boxes every day to send to school? Does it mean that I'm a great housekeeper? What does that actually mean to be successful as a parent? Because what happens when you don't define it consciously is that you will subconsciously create an impossible job for yourself to fulfill, and you'll never feel like doing it justice. So what I do instead is I go through and I say, all right, here's the things that matter to me. I want to teach my children faith and values. I want to teach my children to understand their unique gifts. I want to teach them to think outside the box. I want to help them become the best person they can be. I don't include laundry in my definition of whether or not I'm a good mom or not. There are a lot of things that I don't do, or I don't worry about whether or not I do, because they don't really matter according to my definition of success. So if we're playing, we're having fun, and everybody is growing and experiencing good things in their life and our relationships are close, I feel like I'm good. And with accomplishment, what does that look like for you? Do you have to have a Nobel Prize or a best-selling book or be a household name in order to have achieved your definition of success? Because I promise you, if you're chasing someone else's version of success, you're never going to feel like you have arrived. So now that we know what we value and we know what success looks like for us, now we need to think through what are the things that I want to do on a daily basis or on a weekly basis in order to feel like I am fulfilling those core things that matter most to me. They have to go in first because these are not the squeaky wheel items. These are not the things that you're going to get an email from someone else or someone's going to be like, hey, why didn't you show up for this? These are the things that no one but you will know that you're leaving out, and you're the one who's going to feel it. Now that we're clear on priorities, the next thing we're going to do is create a workflow. And I'm going to show you how to create yours, and then I'll tell you kind of what mine looks like to give you some ideas. So the first thing to take into consideration when you're creating a workflow is what are those core important things that you want to do each day. So for me, when I start out my first 30 minutes of my day in devotion, meditation, prayer, and journaling, oh my gosh, the whole world feels so much better. And when I dedicate time each month to like going out and doing something adventurous and something fun, I feel like I'm on top of the world.
Wow, what a feeling.
And when I have projects that I'm working towards that are like big goals and not just doing the day-to-day tasks, I feel more accomplished. And when I spend time with my family each day and like we actually go deeper than just transactional things, then I feel like I'm in a good spot with my family. So I know what those things are, and now I'm going to build a schedule around it. Number one thing that I am going to look at is my day-to-day flow. So are you a morning person? Are you a night owl? I am such a morning person. I wake up most days before my alarm wakes me up, but by like 6 o'clock, I'm done. I am done. I have no more creativity, no more brain cells. I'm just like, okay, I did everything I needed to do, and now it's time for me to transition. You want to create a schedule that honors that. So if you're not a morning person and you're trying to do the 5 a.m. club and be really productive in the morning, it's going to be really hard for you. If you're someone who your brain turns on at 10 o'clock at night, that's when you should be doing your best creative work. The next thing we want to look at is when do you have the most energy and the most creativity throughout the week. So I start off the week with more discipline and more focus. By like Friday, I feel like I'm kind of useless. Like if I'm working on something hard on a Friday, it is so hard. I was the kid in school who was always looking out the window on Friday like, is it done yet? Is school done? What am I gonna do this weekend? What am I gonna do after school? And
Can we please just go home now?
I just can't keep that focus. So I don't plan hard tasks that require a lot of discipline for Fridays. I plan them towards the beginning of the week, and then I allow my week to kind of taper down. The third question I want you to ask yourself is how long can you work before you need time off? That is really important to know. You're not a machine. You can't go indefinitely. And I'm not saying you need to take big fancy vacations or big expensive vacations, but I want you to know how long can you work before you just simply need some time off. When you know that routine, maybe it's 8 weeks, maybe it's 6 weeks, maybe it's 3 months, you can actually plan days off on your calendar so that you don't get to the point of burnout and get to that point of feeling out of balance.
I'm just so tired. I'm so very tired.
Okay, so how does the Walker family balance life and business? It is not perfect. It is not easy. And some of you, if you could see the schedule in our house, you would call us hypocrites and say, you guys aren't in balance. But here's the thing, it's balance for us. So how we do it is, first of all, we're very clear and very in alignment with what our priorities are. And we say yes or no to business opportunities according to whether or not they fit into those ultimate goals. The second thing that we do is we plan our weeks so that we can be available for the important things with our kids, but somebody is available to do the important things with business. We do not hold ourselves accountable for being at every single activity for every single kid, but we do go to every single important activity for every single kid. How do we know which ones are important? Ask them. They'll tell you. Which ones do they care that you're at, and which ones are they like, oh, that's not a big deal. I have one son who would tell me it's not a big deal to go to anything of his. I have another one who wants me to go to a lot of his stuff. So you've got to kind of talk these things out. Your kids need to know that they're a priority to you, but your whole life doesn't have to revolve around the things that you have going on there. And I work with my natural flow. I get up early in the morning. I do a lot of my push early in the day. I'll take a power nap or a meditation break or a little like movement walk yoga in the afternoon when I'm starting to fade a little bit.
Up, down, up.
And it refreshes me until I get done. I tend to work in my business from about 10 till 4, sometimes 5 in the mornings. That's when I use it for my project time, my creative time, the things that I want to accomplish in my life. And then I love when I don't have to work on Fridays. If Friday can be a half day for me, or if I can take off like 2 Fridays a month, that's where I am truly the most productive. And the hard thing is when you feel like, but my business needs more from me, I have to give it more. What will happen is once you're working outside of your zone of balance and productivity, you'll put in more hours, but it doesn't mean you get more done. If this is helpful, make sure that you like and then subscribe. Hit that bell notification. You'll get notified every time we release new content. Now you know how to maintain work-life balance as a busy entrepreneur. The next video that I want you to go watch is how to create consistent 10K months.